The Troubled Tree. In the pleasant spring of 55, a beautiful tree would bud, who over the years with seasonal shears became a shapely shrub. Such a wonder to witness indeed, to see what once was seed to now have leaves. Thus surely good tidings expected, just as long as a man could protect it. From fowl and from beast who ravage her fruit, from modern machines that damage her root. For after excessive misuse, I project a recluse is produced. What aforetime was comely in youth, suddenly bears poisonous fruit. Though once a beacon of gladness, she's resigned to retracting her branches, thinking maybe if thought less attractive, I'll no more be sought by the masses. Even though such behavior to us seems morbid, she was but the sturdiest stump in the forest, because with all of the promise her own life forbade, from winter through fall, she provided us shade. Rest in peace.
How is everything?
It's good.
It's good, thank you. For Not Light came out with...
Burnside Review Press in 2019.
Okay. Do you consider For Not Light as surrealist poetry?
It's more, I guess, absurdist, some of the poems. It's not very... It's nonsensical.
Right.
I guess in a way that interests me, though. I really like a group of writers called the Russian Absurdists.
Okay.
Oberu, O-B-E-R-I-E-U, who were writing during, well, the 20s and the 30s under Stalin's regime. I think they were known as kind of people who did hijinks, but they weren't known as this is a serious writer who I need to pay attention to. They were just kind of cultural punks. In Stalinist Russia, you could not just say outright kind of, I guess, what you wanted to say.
Like political statements or anything?
I think they were one and the same sometimes, at the height of the Stalinist regime, millions of people, you're always kind of worried what you're going to say because somebody might kind of misconstrue anything that you say into a political statement, and then you're off to the gulag,
They had to avoid saying something directly, so they said it indirectly in an absurdist way.
Yeah, we can write a poem, Donald Trump was the worst president ever as the title, and just list off all of the reasons.
Right.
Or whoever, pick your politician. Bush, Clinton, you can do whoever you want.
Right.
It's not really gonna matter. No, it's not
gonna come after you.
Donald Trump or Clinton, Bill Clinton, they're not gonna come after you, whereas you could not do that in Stalinist Russia.
Right.
Joseph Brodsky, the Russian author, said censorship is good for an author because it makes them kind of refine their language and pushes their poetics.
Interesting.
Which is a weird thing to say,
yeah.
But when you are censored, yet you still feel the need to make political or cultural statements in your poems, I guess you have to kind of try and find a way to do that. I'm not saying, but we don't have to do that. Or I don't. Me personally, I don't.
Right.
A, I'm not super political, but B, I don't feel censored. I can write the Donald Trump sucks poem or whatever, and
right.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter. It just might not be a good poem. You can't do that in other places. We do take that for granted.
We do. You've put out 3 full-length titles.
So one long chapbook that's kind of has some other stuff going on.
Yeah.
One poetry collection, another poetry collection, and then an XRAY collection that was short, that was all about Biggie Smalls and skateboarding. And then
that's called A Man on High? Or?
The Man on High, yeah.
Man on
Essays on skateboarding, which is kind of garbage. And then the novel that I have coming out next year with Future Tense.
Are you working on another collection of poetry? More of the one-off poems?
More of the one-off poems. I wrote a long poem in 2020 and 2021.
I remember it, yeah.
Which I think it's all right. There are a couple of the sections that have been published. I think it's all right. I'm not going to publish it in a book or something. I don't write nearly as much as I used to. I do more editing, I do a lot of emailing, I do a lot of shipping, and yeah.
Do you find the editing, looking at words all day, kind of makes you not want to write? Or?
Well, I spent a lot of my mid-20s to mid-30s thinking about myself. I mean, specifically in terms of writing and trying to publish all the time and being very
proactive.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say aggressive, but being very ambitious. Like, you know, if I get rejected from one magazine, I'm gonna send to another magazine.
Right.
And I will say, in the last maybe 4 years, I've really stepped away because I'm not writing as much, and I do want to do other things down the line, but like.
But do you attribute that to being an editor?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't. Yes, yeah, I do. I mean, if I didn't run Fonograf, I mean, I'd probably be doing the same thing. But I mean, I don't know. You get bored of yourself as you get older, or I think you're lucky. You should.
Right.
I mean, one of the things too, getting older, is you're able to, for me at least, acknowledge my limitations and I guess embrace them as well, which I do think is important because some people aren't willing to do that or don't do that. You know, there are things I can't do as a writer. There are things I don't have the skill or talent or what have you.
Right.
And that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to lament, you know, my failures. I'm going to embrace them instead.
And now, do you see being an editor as part of your identity?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I think whatever anyone does, it becomes part of their identity. I guess the other question is whether you wear that on your sleeve or if you just kind of, I guess, accept it wordlessly.
Right.
I mean, I'm not like particularly proud of being an editor, nor am I ashamed of it. I try and not have like an ego. I'm not like, I published this book and it was New York Times best of, here's my business card. Like, you know, I'm proud of that, like, but I also don't.
But you're not picking books to be bestsellers necessarily.
No. I mean, I don't think any poetry press is. A bestseller in poetry for a small press can be like, well, yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah. You know, the average regional cookbook is selling more copies than a good best-selling book of small press poetry. I mean, I think you should be proud of anything. If you teach a class well, or if you get an A and you actually like did the work. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
speaking of which, you teach for PCC.
I teach at PCC, yes.
But if you could, you'd want to quit everything else and just be an editor, yeah?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a reader before I'm a writer. Some writers are writers before they're readers. That's fine.
Well, I'm thinking about the books Fonograf has published.
I mean, next year we'll have, you know, including our imprint, like 35 out. So 35 since 2016, but we really ramped up.
That's wild.
But we really ramped up in 2020. I mean, most of those are in the last 4 years. Almost all of them.
If somebody sends you a manuscript, what would you say you are looking for?
What I was taught in grad school is you should anchor your reader throughout with different kind of recurring images, recurring motifs, recurring words. The more poetry I read, sometimes I kind of push back against that. So, I don't know. I guess sometimes books are very much projects and are very much like, I wrote this during these 3 years when I was undergoing this event, this what have you.
Yeah.
And I think those books are great. I also think that there used to just be books in like the 20s and the 30s, 1920s and 30s. They're just like observations or poems, and you'd put out a new book every like 6 years. And if they're good poems, those can be cool too. I mean,
yeah. But it does seem like an older way of going about it.
Yeah, it seems like a less commercial way. And we're a small nonprofit press, I guess. Cookbooks sell thousands and thousands of copies.
Well, Jeff, thank you for talking with me here at Swift and Union up in Kenton.
Up in Kenton on Denver Avenue. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.